Now welcome to the stage, researcher at the Harvard Medical School and Google Cloud, GDE, Samuel Marks.
I picked this microphone so I can participate in the karaoke I missed last night. So I aim to facilitate mass screening for blinding eye disease. And you might be thinking, that's a lofty goal for one person. Let's talk through it. So let's start with context, because in Gemini, if you say it enough times, you win a prize. Context is what I'm talking about. So people are needlessly going blind. So the worldwide prevalence of glaucoma is 3.54%. So glaucoma is the leading cause of irreversible blindness, and it affects the older rather than the younger. And the older, things are going bad in their life, so they don't really notice that their left eye's peripheral vision is starting to go bad. And a decade passes, 2 decades pass, and then they're blind. So it's known as like the slow thief of sight. Roughly 50% of cases go undiagnosed. Now I'll put all these slides online so everyone can check the references after the talk, or you can just type in that DUI down the bottom. As you can tell, I'm a researcher, so there will be a lot of references. So how do we get from 50% undiagnosed to close to, 5% undiagnosed? That seems like a good goal. So screening now is what we should start with. So how do people currently screen for glaucoma? So it's mostly a first world thing, because you need all of these medical devices. It's not you get one device, you screen them, okay, you don't have glaucoma, okay, bye, see you in 2 years, see you in 10 years, depending on the age range they are at. See you when you're above 40, which, judging by this room, will be quite a long way away for most of you. So you need all these devices, and I can describe what each of these are, but you need an ophthalmologist with at least a decade of experience, including medical school. If you remember the Dr. Manning's talk earlier, you saw his path. That's a lot of training to get to where he is. And it's great where he is, but that's a lot of training. And then you need a diagnosis that's recorded within an EHR system. And again, EHR systems can get quite expensive. They're almost all extremely proprietary. The ones that are open source are almost unused. It's not a good landscape. So let's look at the price. So we're looking at around $1,600 per patient to screen, and with a prevalence of 118 million people with glaucoma by 2040, those numbers, that's beyond Google's budget. Let's look at the distribution, and I'm going to jump back and forth between these two slides a few times. So we look at sight loss. This is the distribution of sight loss around the world. Ophthalmologists. Now back to sight loss. Whoop, sorry. Could you? Yeah, I just want to jump back and forth between these two slides a bunch of times. So go back to ophthalmologists, sight loss. Ophthalmologists, sight loss. So you see the problem? Yes, exactly. The people with sight loss don't have any ophthalmologists near them. Ophthalmologists like earning big bucks, and a lot of them are in Australia, and I've worked with a bunch of them, and they're great people. They're very charitable people. They donate a lot of their time to third world countries, doing surgeries there. But they want to live in Australia. So let's jump through to how we can solve this problem of mass screening. So first off, let's start with a single piece of hardware. I said before that you need multimodals to diagnose, but let's let's pretend we don't, or more specifically, let's build two models, one where it's just one modal and one where it's multiple. So I talk about screening programs. A screening program differs from diagnostic, like a diagnostic program, because you're not giving a definitive answer. So it's just like, hey, if we screened everybody here and I decided like, say you're screening for diabetes and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to pick everyone that's fat. That's going to give you pretty good way of limiting, who gets into the clinic. And then you've got a funnel, and then when you're in the clinic, you've got, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of hardware that you can use to screen like more precisely. But you've now dramatically reduced your waiting room. So let's start there. So a fundus camera or a smartphone ophthalmoscope or regular ophthalmoscope exposes the back of your eye. So here on the screen, you can see in the middle, that's your optic nerve in the middle, the circle lit up. And then around, and then to the side of that is the macula in the dark shadow, and then your microvasculature. And they go for between $800 and $5,000. Who's ever taken a photo and seen red eye, and then been annoyed when Google removes it because you actually care about the red eye? Well, I care about the red eye. You zoom in on the red eye, that's what ophthalmologists call the red reflex. That's actually the back of your eye there. That's the reflection of the back of your eye. When you see cats, they have different colors, and that's because they're missing one of the layers of the eye that humans have. And if you see two different colors, like let's say you've got a photo of a baby and you get two different colors, say white and red, see an ophthalmologist immediately. Could be many things, could be cancer. So that's a good thing to look out for. So yeah, with red eye, you want to zoom in on it. So how do you zoom in on it? When you get close to an eye, it's like, oh, the light's just going to spray all over the face. Well, let's here's my first prototype. And again, keep in mind that people are spending like $5,000 for these devices now. That's a condensing lens. That's about $250. And then 3D printed parts, I don't know, say $30. Not too expensive, but prototype. I want to go back to the drawing board. Okay, I really want to get the light to go, not spray over the entire face like with a phone, but specifically through the pupil, reflect off the back of the eye and come back. So that's the principle. Like, oh yeah, just throw a convex lens in there. Simple. This is, you probably did this in like high school physics class. Nothing fancy. So blue tack, there's some random things I found at the hardware shop, or not the hardware shop, the stationery shop, and it works. Lots of back light reflection. All right, so let's innovate a bit further, if I can call it innovation when it's just blue tack. So that's my second prototype. And that's my third prototype. As you can see, things are getting, I'm starting to remove components, freestanding lenses, and it's looking beautiful. Like I'm sure you all want to like go to the store now and buy this for like $500. Let's get a bit more complex. Let's get some foil and roll it around, and see if that works. It does. Let's go a bit fancier. Okay, who remembers Year 8 math class? Yeah, let's do some Year 8 math over here. So here are the dimensions for the sixth prototype. Here is like really simple. If you can even call this trigonometry, I guess because I have the tan in, I have to. And that's the instructions to build one of these. It's like, ooh, okay, now we're getting somewhere. That looks like a piece of paper that is streaming a bit of light through the pupil and reflecting off the back. All right, now this is starting to look like something. I totally don't need to go further than this. and a bit of paper with foil on one side and paper on the other, and still somehow getting an image of the optic nerve. Takes a long time, so if you play around with it, still have some bugs to kink out. But if you're pressed for time and money, and you just want to get you're in some far off area of the world, and you just need to get a picture of the optic nerve in order to diagnose glaucoma, optic neuritis, which is an early indicator of MS, retinoblastoma, which is a childhood cancer. Any of those you could pretty easily do with just this prototype, or any of these prototypes for that matter. But the last 3 of these prototypes are less than $0.01 each. So I'm just pretty happy about that. Thank you. So distribution. So if I wanted to mass produce these devices, you see it's basically paper. So it's cheap. It's really cheap. It's cost of postage cheap. So let's say I want to send it to every family medicine doctor in the world. I'm going to start with these countries that I've highlighted in white because they're the biggest in terms of population size and geographical size. And I get to start with my country. So there are 26 million people in Australia. There are 42,000 GPs, so family medicine doctors, as you Americans call them, and 1,000 ophthalmologists. So the ratios aren't bad, but you're not going to give the ophthalmologists these devices. They've got $100,000 devices. They've got $5,000 ophthalmoscope fundus cameras. So send it to the GPs instead and get them to funnel it up to the ophthalmologists. Do the same, keep going until, so I've got speaker notes, great. I don't need to talk off my cuff anymore. So I finally have numbers on the screen. So for the first 3.5 billion people to screen them, assuming they go into the GPs, which is its own problem, but assuming they go into the GPs, you're talking at around just under $600,000 in total. So let's just multiply that a little bit, get in some error bars. That's not much money to screen the entire world for glaucoma. Let's throw in some software because this is a software conference. I purposely put these numbers at the top really small so that it would exemplify just how small the data set is that I've been working with. So that's the Blue Mountains eye study at the top, and it's tiny. And the researchers behind it have written somewhere between 300 and 500 papers on this tiny image count. And I'm like, no, we got to get better than that. So then I collected my own data set, and we collected a lot less. So then I got a position at Harvard, completely charitable. So I volunteer my own time. It's all charitable. It's all open source. And I was like, okay, great. I'm going to show up. This was almost 4 years ago. I'm going to show up, and they're going to give me their data. No one's never been in this situation where you ask a big organization for data, and they're like, oh yes, we'd love to give you the data. So anyway, they're going to give me 2 terabytes of data. Here's an email proving it on Monday. So it's almost transferred, 67% done. Once that's transferred, I'm going to upload that to Google Cloud and TensorFlow Research Cloud, the TPU Research Cloud, and do some nice processing. My plan is to take this 2 terabyte data set, use some new techniques that I've been developing to de-identify it into 10 terabytes of data that I'm then going to release into the public domain, CC0, for everyone to work on. So that should be fun. Whilst we're twiddling those thumbs, because you saw the title was Twiddle Those Thumbs, let's play around with some machine learning libraries. I assume people here have worked with Keras. So I'm a top 10 contributor to Keras. Because I've been twiddling my thumbs for so long, I just started contributing to the libraries. So let's think about this library from a from a programmer perspective, from a someone that really likes to code compilers. So what is in the optimizers? There's a bunch of dunder methods, the ones with 2 underscores. There's a bunch of uppercase class names. So we know what these are. These are optimizers. You've probably all played around with them. Okay, that's not fancy enough for me. Let's go one step further. So here, if you're writing a compiler, you want to work at the abstract syntax tree level. Behind me, you'll see just the nice matplotlib representation of the Python AST. And what you'll notice is the learning rate in the bottom left has an arg annotation of none and a type comment of none. And on the far right, the epsilon similarly. So just assume we can fill in those methods, and I've written a compiler to do so. And then you suddenly know what a learning rate is. It's a floating point number. You know the range of it, 0 to 1, 0.0 to 1.0. And you can start doing some fancy things. And by fancy things, I mean very simple things. I mean things I can fit on one slide. So your categorical variables, things like your optimizers, your loss functions, your transfer learning models, ResNet, EfficientNet, et cetera, and then your continuous variables, your alpha, your beta, your learning rate. I'm also a top contributor. I just became the top 15 contributor to MaxText. So there's going to be some new work in JAX coming soon to this open source project. But essentially, this future-proofs ML because as things change, you just add them to the search space. As new research papers come out, you add their associated library to the search space. And then you invent a new optimizer. You can run it against every, whatever subset of data sets you want to test it on. You've got your own new data set, and you want to optimize, area under the receiver operating characteristic curve. You can do that too. Here is my state-of-the-art results for discerning glaucoma from non-glaucoma. And I've got similar graphs that are basically identical for diabetic retinopathy from healthy and from gradable image to ungradable image. Now, these results, actually I was able to get a lot better results. I was able to get my false positives down to 0 and my false negatives down to 0. That means that I would be the laughingstock of every research conference because that's what people like to call overfitting. So I'm looking forward to this much larger data set. And in the meantime, whilst I twiddle my thumbs, I think this is at least 2/3 of another doctorate done, so I should submit it to some institution. Now, I'm talking to developers here, so let's do stuff together. Let's have some fun. So going to be expanding the software side with MaxText integration, training at scale with TensorFlow Research Cloud, distribute that new data set, and most importantly, and this is what I want to get every GDE that knows a thing or two about data science or ML or AI involved in, is the data set competitions. So I was chatting with the Kaggle people at Google I/O. They're interested, 10 terabytes of fundus photos. That's pretty good. You're going to have some fun with that. So I'm going to release that data set and software for screening. Now, on the people side, as you can tell, if anyone here has met me, I don't like people. So you're going to have to help me be better with people because, I want to run screening programs in every country in the world. No limits. I don't care politically. So thank you. Yeah. So there's a separate hardware roadmap, but I didn't want to get into it in this talk. But happy to answer any questions, and please reach out. And this is my work. Thanks.